Hello everybody, welcome back to the United Stand. Now this video is my problem with Anthony Elanga. It's actually going to be our problem with Anthony Elanga. I'm with Beth today, but we're going to deep dive into Anthony Elanga, his stats for this season so far, what we think he can actually offer to the team, if anything really, what we see in terms of his longevity, his career in maybe a couple of years, where he could end up if he's going to be a Manchester United player long term. But Beth, just a quick off the top of the dome, what are you thinking about Anthony Elanga this season?
I don't want to be too harsh on the guy because he's a kid at the end of the day, isn't he? Yeah. What is he, like 20, 19, 20?
He is young.
He's a young player, and he came in, and do you know what? He came in a time where we were desperate under Ralph, and Ralph obviously really kind of gelled with him.
He trusted him.
He was starting over Marcus Rashford, and there was rumours coming out that Rashford wasn't very happy about that. Which, do you know what? We needed something at that moment in time, and he worked hard. You can't fault his work rate. He's got the attribute where he's super fast. I mean, Ricky loves him, so he must be doing something right. But personally, for me, he's just not Manchester United level, and I think it's unfair to expect that of him at this point. We've seen it multiple times. He's just not good enough to be starting for Manchester United. And then when he's come off the bench, he's not really looked like offering too much after that first little kind of decent spell that he had. Like, Garnacho's ahead of him now as well, and Garnacho's 18, and he just looks, when you look at Garnacho, he just looks like he's got much more potential than Elanga. What I think Elanga needs, you've got to be a special type of player to come through United's youth, get into the first team, and then
stay there
and get a place in the starting level. Starting 11. So I think what Elanga needs is the type of player that he is. I think he needs a loan move to either a low-level Premier League team, a high-level Championship team, and he needs to go out there and play football. Sitting on the United bench every week and having 10 minutes to come on isn't going to do him any favours, in my opinion. Yeah,
we could touch on our thoughts in terms of where he could possibly end up, whether that is a loan move or a permanent move. But before we do, I mean, my personal take on Elanga is I do think he was brought to the scene too soon, too early on. But, as you say, we were very desperate with what we needed. He has had good games, but I just think he's very one-dimensional at the minute. He's very quick, and that is something that he wants to exploit. But again, from that, you become very predictable, which I think he has become. It's almost like he came onto the scene, and you see this with a lot of players. They have or show one good attribute and it works for a couple of weeks, but then as soon as someone goes, oh well, he's just quick, so I'll just give him an extra yard, or whatever, and he's been found out. In all honesty, his sort of growth and development has been stunted, and just from some stats from this season so far, he's played 17 games, amounting 601 minutes, scored 0 goals, got 1 assist, and his XG is actually 1.14, so he is underperforming. He should have scored 1 goal, which isn't ideal, realistically. I mean, look, he's played in a multitude of positions. He's usually that right-hand side, isn't he? But he has found himself in that 9 position for 5 or 10 minutes. Where do you see him moving forward? Say he was to stay at Manchester United, do you just see him sticking to obviously the left or right-hand side? Where do you think his main position, or where he thrives best, is?
Well, Man United, Eric Ten Hag with Man United, he wants his forward players to be versatile, and Elanga, you can see under Eric Ten Hag, has actually become even more versatile, even though he's not playing very well, in my opinion. But I think Eric Ten Hag knows the level that he's at, and he's kind of easing. It's hard. He's not relying on him the same way that obviously Ralph was, because obviously there's better players to pick from now. Like when you really look at the levels of these players, there's better players to pick from, and you've seen that Garnacho's kind of taken quite a few of his minutes. Elanga is usually coming on after Garnacho now. So for me, Elanga, I see him on the right, probably is his best position. I think getting him behind, or the left. I think right and left are very similar. He obviously scored that goal against Atletico in the Champions League. When it was away at the Wanda Metropolitan, off the right, I think it was. He kind of scored and beat Oblak at the far post. So he's got qualities in that sense of getting in behind with his pace, and I think he can do that on either wings. 100% not a striker. I know Eric Ten Hag has played him there out of just, I think, sheer desperation at times. He wanted to rest Martial and Rashford, so that's why Elanga went there, because he's quick and he can get in behind. But he's definitely not a number 9. He's a winger. He's got pace, and you know what? The guy, giving him credit, he tracks back really well. If you're in a game where you need someone to come on and see out the last 10-15 minutes, he's got a use for that as well, coming on as a winger. But ultimately, where do I see him? He's on the bench, to be honest with you, and that sounds really harsh. But on the bench until he can get some sort of loan move. I'm not completely writing the guy off. Don't get me wrong. He could improve, but right now, in this moment in time, he's not good enough.
You know what I actually could see? I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen, but I'm going to throw a little bold prediction out there. I actually wouldn't. If someone said to me, you know, Anthony Elanga is going to be a right back in 5 years, I wouldn't actually say no, he's not, because I don't want to go back to the comparisons of Valencia, but obviously Valencia started off as a winger and then naturally just moved back, didn't he, to the right back. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. If he did, obviously you'd have to work on that. You don't just one day wake up and play right back. But you know, if that is something that he wanted to progress into, or thought that he was better at that, obviously he'd need to work defensively. He'd need to obviously probably bulk up a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, that all comes with age. He's still very young. He still needs to gain a lot of experience. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I don't think he'd be, if he was to go into the fullback position, I don't think he'd be a fullback for Manchester United. But I wouldn't be surprised if that somehow happened.
Do you know what he reminds me of with his pace? Do you remember, like, Rashford is quick, but when Rashford first came onto the scene, he was ultra quick. Elanga is ultra quick. The problem is, Rashford kind of had the skills to go with it. He was beating players left, right and centre. I don't really see Elanga ever beat a player that much unless it's just from knocking it past him and getting past him. His shooting ability, again, he's missed some sitters that he should have scored. But at the same time, I remember when he came on in that Wolves game when Ollie was still in charge and he was just basically playing, you know, his second team because they had the Europa League final coming up, and he's got a great volley. He's got some technical ability, but he needs to work on it in a team where he's going to get minutes. This
is the thing, and it can't be. I know he doesn't get much opportunity, or he isn't at this current moment, but you can't be few and far between. The opportunities that you get, you have to grab.
And I think it's the pressure for him as well. Like, he was in the team a lot last year, and in his performances did massively fade off last year as well. But now, whenever he comes in, he probably feels like he has to come on and do something to try and show something, and it's just not happening at all for him.
Yeah, it's a shame, and I mean, you talk a little bit about like his defensive stuff, and I can say about his defensive stats here. So he has 3.74 defensive duels per 90. Out of those defensive duels, he wins 64% of them, so you know it's pretty good. 4.64 successful defensive actions per 90, and along with that, we've got some dribbling stats of 4.79 dribbles per 90, and 50% of those are successful. I almost do relate him. I feel like this saying is a little bit harsh, but I don't know how to put it any other way. But it almost is a one-trick pony, just what he is. He is very much just a very quick winger.
Speed player. Do you know what it is? He reminds me of Dan James.
Yeah.
Really similar, because Dan James didn't really offer much else, but again, he got back. Ricky loved him. They've got that in common.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's one thing as a winger in this day and age, this type of football is, you have to be able to track back. Not even necessarily do anything when you track back, but you need to show that willingness.
Press as well, yeah.
And you need to show that you are capable of doing it, because that will get you a long way and that will get you playing for other teams. But talking of other teams, where do you see... I think personally a loan move would benefit him very, very well. I think what you've seen with Ahmad obviously is so far, touch wood, being very successful.
Yeah, really successful.
At Sunderland, so... I think, Ryan actually mentioned a little bit earlier, Carrick is now obviously a manager at Middlesbrough. He's actually doing really well so far since he's come in. Could there be an option there where Elanga goes on, I don't know whether it's January or not, next summer, whether he goes to Middlesbrough and works under a familiar face in Carrick and develops there? Is that something that you'd see working out?
I definitely think the clubs would be interested in him from what he has actually done. He's had some good moments, and I think Carrick could be a good manager for him to work under, someone he already knows, someone who's obviously got his best interests at heart, somewhere he's going to get game time. I mean, Carrick's employed quite a possession-based style of football at Middlesbrough. He's doing very, very well with them, and I think Elanga could work well in that. He's obviously not seeing much of the ball when he comes on at United, just because everyone, I feel like he's quite on a little different level to him. But when he's at a team where he's getting the ball at his feet quite often. He's having a lot of game time. It'll really give him that chance to work on his dribbling, work on beating a player, adding more strings to his bow. So I 100% think a team like that would be really, really good for him. And don't get me wrong, I think if he did go into the Championship, the right team, I think he has the capabilities to do very, very well there.
Yeah.
I just think he needs that game time, and we've seen it with Ahmad. I actually think Ahmad, when I look at them both, I might be wrong in this because I've not seen them both completely to make a full judgment. I think Ahmad looks like a technically, naturally more gifted player, but obviously Elanga has that speed, and athleticism is so important in the modern game. It really is. So Ahmad's gone to Sunderland, been really successful. Looks like he's going to come back and maybe potentially get given a chance. You never know what might happen with Elanga. He goes there, he gets game time, he does really well, and you think either he can come back and compete, which I struggle to put my mind to that, or he goes and gets an offer from a Southampton or a team like that and can make a career that way. I just think it's a career move for him, and what's best for Man United is he needs to be getting game time. But I do think, like, I look at people saying lower Prem team, but I don't really see him getting. See him getting in it like the bottom, like even Forest. I don't think he'd get in there. No. Like watching, they've got Brendan Johnson and stuff like that. They are still ahead of him. I think you're looking at a Championship side with with Elanga.
I nearly forgot his name.
Yeah.
But no, I think I do agree. And you've got to look at it from this perspective also. If it isn't gonna work out long term, and I think Ten Hag will quite quickly figure out, especially if we're bringing in other players, you've got to look at getting some money in for him.
Yeah,
right. Like,
exactly.
And how are we best going to do that? Is it best that he sits on the bench and plays a game every, or 10 minutes every other week, or is it best that he goes out on loan with the prospect or possibility of becoming a first team regular, or just getting that experience and then actually thinking, look, you're not probably going to be good enough. We're bringing these players in. Look at getting 20, 15 million for you or whatever.
Well, his mindset's always going to be, I'm going to go on loan to prove that I can get into this first team. 100% it's going to be that, and that's what it should be. All players should think like that, and I do think he's got a good attitude. If Ralph was playing him that often and raving about how good his attitude was and how much he wanted to learn, there's always a chance when someone's got that working attitude like he does have. So I mean, I'd wish the best to him on loan, but like the title of this video says, my problem with is that he's not on loan. He's not getting that experience. When he does get that, that's when you can judge how good he could potentially be. As a young player, you don't really know until you see them playing week in, week out. You can grasp it. Like, I can sit here now and say, I think Garnacho is going to have a more successful career than Elanga, just because you can see the natural talent. Yeah. But it doesn't mean he can't improve and get better and potentially work his way up there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Elanga, again, at the title of this video, I think my main problem is that obviously he's not getting the minutes to show kind of what he is about. But when he is, he's just not taking it by the scruff of the neck. And I know it's very hard if he's coming on for 5 minutes, if he's coming on for 10 minutes, that is very difficult. But there are other players doing it. Garnacho, Garnacho's done it when he comes on for 5-10 minutes. He gets the crowd going, even if we're winning, there's smart ways you can get the manager's attention.
He's confident enough to take people on. He's probably one of the most confident in the team at taking people on right now. Yeah,
and that's exactly what you want. And I mean, look, certain players succeed better under certain managers. Obviously, certain managers prefer different players and different play styles. And I do think that it was almost right place, right time for Elanga under Rangnick. And he was enjoying a good period personally as Man United weren't playing very well. Yeah. And it just all kind of aligned for him. And now, obviously, we're playing pretty good. You can definitely see the improvement in tactics and just performance of everyone, and Elanga just hasn't been a part of it so far. So for me, definitely needs to be going out on loan 100%. Is that what you're
going 100%.
Well?
I wouldn't sell him because you never know. Like you just never know. I'd want to see what he can do out on loan, and I do think there is qualities there. Like he's scored in some good moments as well, but you need a lot more than that. You can't just live off one goal in the Champions League against Atletico. So he's got to improve, he's got to do better, and I think the only way to do that is for him to go out and play football week in, week out. And do you know what, it won't do him any harm in the Championship to be getting roughed up a little bit. Like it really is character development, and I think that's what's massively helping Ahmad out there as well.
Definitely. So guys, that's going to be the end of the video. We've come to the conclusion that both of us are wanting him to develop out on loan, whoever that may be for, whether it's in the Championship or the Premier League. Ideally the Championship. I think he'd do better off and probably get more minutes and more games down there. Hopefully follow a similar path that Ahmad has, but get your comments in down below as to what you want to happen with Anthony Elanga. Obviously we want him to be a success, whether that is for us or for a Championship side, and then he brings himself back to us. But yeah, let me know down in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.